Episode 7 of X-Men 97. Let's talk about it. This episode of X-Men 97 was absolutely amazing. The way it focused on the pacifism of Nightcrawler and the entire scene of with the consequences of what happens to Genosha, and the way that Nightcrawler's brother was involved, and was amazing character work. If you don't know, I'm DIW. Make sure to like, save, and follow. And today we're going to be reviewing the current latest episode of X-Men 97, episode 7. The title of this episode is Strangeland Savage Heart. First things first, let's go ahead and recap the episode with kind of what happened, with the general idea of what happened. The episode starts out with flashbacks to Genosha and Colossus, which is a very Pacific character who suffered a loss during Genosha. Loss of a character named Madrick. Then it cuts to this scene with Creed, the half-brother of Nightcrawler, running as president as anti-mutant sentiment starts to rise up. Then suddenly his speech gets interrupted as a new group comes in and attacks him mid-speech, obviously because of the violent rhetoric he was spewing behind him against mutants. This group is called the Acolytes of Magneto, of the followers of what happened in Genosha. Then we get introduced to this one character named Exodus, who will be really important later for the mutant trial when they captured Creed. Skip forward a bit, we get a Polarity and Bishop scene. We get Charles Xavier talking to that one lady that runs the government side of the mutant containment thing. Interesting enough, I'm pretty sure in the last episode, Polarity left the whole government side, joined the other side, and there's some romantic tension going on with her and Bishop. Get captured, there are inhibitors preventing them from using their powers fully. Interestingly enough, in this scene, we get to see Rogue trying to increase the temperature of the negotiation going on, and this is where Nightcrawler stands out as a character, kind of being oh, you guys shouldn't execute my brother Creed just yet, because he still has an opportunity for redemption, and if you guys are gonna be fair, shouldn't we put him on trial or something? Funny enough, there's this one dude in the background that kind of looks like Magneto. Hopefully I'll show the picture right here, and he's right behind Colossus, which is hilarious. Wow, you really just copied Magneto's entire flow. This is where we get introduced to the beautiful mural of mutants lost, with the fates of Magnus being introduced as well. This scene is really gorgeous because we feel the overall weight of what happened, the overall loss that would happen, and we also get to see kind of the empathy of Nightcrawler coming into clashing with the overall grief that Colossus carries on him. This is where we see him being held up in a jail cell, which is absolutely funny because he just looks mad 24/7. Then Nightcrawler comes up to him and is oh, hi brother, and he's just ew, that's my brother? No. Colossus is in the background just judging him as well, oh my goodness, you're really gonna defend this dude of all dudes? This is where he shows his faith a little, with him reciting a Catholic verse that he obviously read, and Creed joins in, in finishing his speech of the Catholic verse, obviously showing that he's heard it a ton of times before, again and again, and a ton of times he had the opportunity to redeem himself again and again. Personally, I think this is amazing character writing because even without knowing the background of the original X-Men that went on, or the comic book run, we can already tell these characters have a deep history of one trying to save the other from themselves, and the other one resisting. Obviously the one being resisting is Creed, and this is when they finally actually mention the trial, and Nightcrawler negotiates for this trial. This is where he adds in the extra little detail of Colossus presiding over the trial, because he obviously sees the humanity within Colossus and the sympathy that he has for others, which is a very smart play on like Nightcrawler's side. Bishop and Polarity kind of plan also to like get rid of inhibitors that like stop their powers from working. This is also where we get to the main scene of the episode where Nightcrawler makes Creed explain his background with his father, Sabretooth. And in this scene is absolutely amazing because Creed opens up just a little bit to explain how he wanted to be just like his father. He wanted to have mutant-like powers, and he was abandoned by his mother. They apply like a heavy amount of abuse throughout his childhood in this scene, and like he implies it as well, and the entire court can kind of see like his perspective, like, oh, since they were abandoned as like children for having powers and for not fitting into like the societal norms of the time, they can see that he was abandoned for not having powers and like not fitting to his parents' expectation, Mephisto and Sabretooth. That explaining like how the scar got on his face, which is an excellent visual cue as well, and something that Nightcrawler 100% jumps on the opportunity to explain and the opportunity to like expand on the concept. Not just like the concept, but like the detail of him having that scar on his face and connecting that to his father. Coming from Interview with the Vampire, seeing like very morally bad characters have like a slight bit amount of moral complexity and have a slight big amount of like of tragic past, and eventually seeing those characters develop into bad, like the bad people that they are. This scene really stands out with me, especially with the way that they animated his face to be like still a bit stern, but still like a bit sad and regretful of like kind of who he is as a person, and kind of what like that hatred festered to what he became. And I absolutely love the thinking face that Beast is making in the corner as he's like explaining the entire story, just his mouth a little bit open and him being like oh, and this is an amazing strategy that Nightcrawler does. Instead of calling Colossus, which is his mutant name, he calls him Peter, trying to really appeal to his humanity and trying to really appeal to his sense of self. And this kind of reminds me of another show and another series, 12 Angry Men. You should check it out. It's about like kind of the same scenario of somebody on trial, one person really vying for their humanity and like trying to like calm everybody down and get them to the point of reason, and like the way he convinces other people. And I remember watching it in like 6th grade, I'm sure, is absolutely amazing. It's exactly the type of work that Nightcrawler is doing in this scene, and I think I'm gonna make another YouTube video on like what 12 Angry Men meant to me and like the way that they convinced each other. Exodus kind of jumps the gun on this, seeing that he might be found like not guilty, and we get a reveal a lot later of like his actual verdict, and his actual verdict was guilty as well. Exodus just like jumped in. Then we get the entire fight scene going on, and Creed takes the first opportunity he gets to like kill Exodus the moment that he has his guard down. Oh, and also Bishop and Polaris were the ones who start the entire fight scene by them like taking down the inhibitors, and everybody was able to use their powers again. This is where like Nightcrawler teleports him and Creed out of the scenario, and basically leads to a scene where he preaches again of like the strange mercy of God, and he essentially is like, oh my goodness, you don't deserve this, but I'm gonna do it anyways out of my faith. This is basically where we get my favorite scene in the entire episode, where Nightcrawler says to Creed, you may not be a mutant, but you are very much your parents' son. Which is absolutely amazing because it kind of refers to the evil inside of him that was perpetrated onto him that he now wants to perpetrate onto others, and the fact that Nightcrawler like acknowledges this and really wants to like work on this forward, and it really doesn't have like an idealized pacifist view, but a more realistic view of what happened and what like is the state of the world world really makes me like Nightcrawler as a character. And then we finally get to the scene where like the government lady is talking to Charles Xavier, saying that they found Creed in the middle of like a snowy place, which is the place that Nightcrawler left him. And later on we also get this scene of like Apocalypse reviving Gambit, which makes the setup to the next episode absolutely amazing, because I can't wait to see the reunion between Gambit and Road, and this version of Gambit that is tainted with. And weirdly enough, Apocalypse is dead because of that too, because they find the body of Apocalypse, which really makes me wonder what direction are they going with, because I know like from like the little comic book information that I know, Apocalypse is supposed to be this reoccurring figure that constantly haunts the X-Men, and that is the entirety of the episode. Anyways, let's start with my favorite portions of the episode, starting with Bishop and Polarity. I did not expect these two to have some tension, and I did not expect these two to eventually become a couple throughout the series. Them coming in, saving the day like midway throughout the episode was definitely something that was expected, but them two together, not really expected. And I kind of look forward to seeing what might happen, because they don't align personality wise too much. I feel like Bishop is more like stringent and strict on rules, while Polarity is more like wild and kind of more on her whims, but we still have to see with like how the rest of the season goes. Next up, let's talk about the quote that Nightcrawler gave to his brother in the middle of the episode.